Picture this. You're standing on the deck of a medieval ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, surrounded by nothing but endless water in every direction. There's no coastline visible, no landmarks, no GPS signal telling you where you are or which way to go. The captain pulls out what looks like a simple wooden disc with strings attached, holds it up to the sun, and somehow determines not just your location but the exact course to reach land that's still 3 days away. Behind him, another sailor is watching birds, studying cloud formations, and tasting seawater to gather information that will guide navigation decisions. This isn't primitive guesswork, but a sophisticated science that allowed medieval sailors to cross oceans with accuracy that would impress modern navigators. How did they do it? How did these mariners develop techniques so precise they could find tiny islands in vast oceans using nothing but observation, experience, and instruments that look like children's toys? The answer lies in navigation systems that were far more advanced than most people realize. Developed over centuries by sailors who understood that their lives depended on reading the subtle signs that nature provided for those who knew how to interpret them. Medieval mariners created an entire science of oceanic navigation that combined astronomy, meteorology, oceanography, and biology into integrated systems that could guide ships across thousands of miles of open water with remarkable accuracy. They proved that human observation and intelligence could overcome seemingly impossible challenges when the stakes were life and death, and failure meant that entire crews would simply disappear into the vast emptiness of the ocean. Medieval oceanic navigation began with the fundamental understanding that the ocean wasn't empty space, but a dynamic environment filled with information that could guide skilled navigators to their destinations. Experienced sailors learned to read water, color, wave patterns, wind directions, and current flows as clearly as modern people read street signs. They understood that the ocean had highways and landmarks that were invisible to untrained eyes, but obvious to anyone who knew how to interpret the subtle signals that revealed location, direction, and distance across seemingly featureless seas. The most crucial medieval navigation technique involved celestial observation, that used the sun, moon, and stars as natural compasses that never failed, and were always available to sailors who understood how to read their positions and movements. The North Star provided constant directional reference that allowed navigators to maintain accurate headings even during cloudy weather when the sun was invisible. Solar observations revealed both time and latitude through shadow measurements that could pinpoint a ship's north-south position with surprising accuracy. But here's where medieval celestial navigation becomes truly remarkable. Skilled navigators didn't just observe individual stars, but understood complex relationships between multiple celestial bodies that provided navigation information unavailable from any single observation. They memorized the positions of dozens of stars, tracked their seasonal movements, and used constellation patterns to determine not just direction, but also approximate longitude through timing observations that revealed how far east or west they had traveled. The astrolabe was perhaps the most sophisticated medieval navigation instrument, a brass computer that could solve complex astronomical calculations and provide precise positional information when used by experienced navigators. Master mariners understood how to use astrolabes to measure star altitudes, calculate latitude, determine local time, and predict celestial events that could affect navigation accuracy. These instruments required years of training to use effectively, but they provided navigation precision that was remarkable for their era. The magnetic compass revolutionized medieval navigation by providing constant directional reference that wasn't dependent on weather conditions or time of day. However, medieval sailors understood that compass readings weren't perfectly accurate and had to be corrected for magnetic variation that changed with geographic location. They developed correction techniques that accounted for these variations and learned to cross-reference compass readings with celestial observations to maintain navigation accuracy. Medieval sailors developed sophisticated techniques for reading ocean conditions that provided navigation information unavailable through celestial observation alone. They understood that different watercolors indicated varying depths, bottom compositions, and proximity to land. Deep ocean water appeared dark blue, while shallow coastal waters showed lighter colors that warned of approaching shorelines. Muddy water indicated river outflows that could guide ships towards specific coastal regions. Wave pattern analysis provided another crucial navigation technique that allowed experienced sailors to determine direction, distance, and weather conditions from ocean surface observations. Different wave types indicated varying wind patterns, storm systems, and geographic features that could guide navigation decisions. Skilled mariners could identify swells that originated from distant storms, wind waves that revealed current weather patterns, and reflected waves that bounced off coastlines or underwater features. Ocean current knowledge was essential for medieval navigation success, because currents could carry ships far off course if not properly understood and utilized. Master navigators memorized current patterns, seasonal variations, and geographic influences that affected water movement across major ocean routes. They learned to use favorable currents to increase sailing speed, while avoiding adverse flows that could delay voyages or push ships into dangerous areas. The most ingenious medieval navigation technique involved biological indicators that provided information about proximity to land, weather patterns, and seasonal changes that affected voyage planning. Experienced sailors could identify bird species that indicated specific distances from land, recognize cloud formations that revealed hidden islands beyond the horizon, and observe marine life patterns that suggested favorable fishing grounds or dangerous weather systems. Bird behavior provided particularly valuable navigation information because different species had known flight ranges and habitat preferences that indicated proximity to specific types of coastlines. Seabirds that flew in straight lines often pointed toward land that was still beyond visual range. Migrating birds revealed seasonal wind patterns and weather systems that could affect voyage planning. Even the absence of certain bird species provided information about distance from land and ocean depth. Cloud formations offered another sophisticated navigation aid that skilled observers could interpret to locate land that was still invisible below the horizon. Clouds often formed over islands or coastlines in distinctive patterns that experienced navigators recognized from considerable distances. The color and shape of clouds could indicate the type of terrain they were covering, helping sailors identify specific islands or coastal regions from their unique cloud signatures. The development of medieval sea charts represented a revolutionary advance in navigation technology that allowed mariners to record and share detailed information about ocean routes, coastal features, and navigation hazards. These charts weren't just simple maps, but complex information systems that included current patterns, wind directions, depth soundings, and landmark references that could guide ships across familiar routes with improved safety and efficiency. Portolan charts became the most sophisticated medieval navigation aids, featuring detailed coastline drawings, compass rose networks, and sailing directions that provided comprehensive guidance for Mediterranean and Atlantic navigation. These charts required enormous investments of time and resources to create, making them valuable trade secrets that were closely guarded by the navigation guilds and merchant companies that commissioned their production. The creation of accurate sea charts required coordinated efforts by multiple navigators, who shared observations, verified route information, and contributed to collective knowledge bases that improved navigation safety for entire maritime communities. Chart makers developed standardized symbols, measurement systems, and drawing conventions that allowed navigators from different regions to understand and utilize charts created by foreign cartographers. Navigation guilds controlled access to the most valuable sailing information and maintained professional standards that protected both navigation secrets and public safety. Guild members underwent rigorous training that included practical sea experience, theoretical education, and examination procedures that certified their competency before they were authorized to navigate merchant vessels or military ships across dangerous ocean routes. Guild regulations established professional conduct standards, pricing structures, and quality control measures that protected both navigators and ship owners from fraud, incompetence, and dangerous practices. They maintained libraries of charts and sailing directions, operated training programs for apprentice navigators, and provided insurance systems that compensated families when navigators were lost at sea during commercial voyages. The religious aspects of medieval navigation provided psychological comfort and practical guidance that helped sailors cope with the enormous risks and uncertainties of oceanic travel. Many navigators carried religious relics, observed specific prayers and rituals, and timed their voyages to coincide with religious festivals that were believed to provide divine protection during dangerous ocean crossings. Religious institutions often supported navigation development by maintaining libraries of geographical knowledge, sponsoring exploration voyages, and providing sanctuary for navigators who needed refuge during dangerous weather or political conflicts. Monasteries along coastlines served as navigation aids themselves, providing lighthouse services, weather information, and emergency assistance for ships in distress. The economic incentives for improving medieval navigation were enormous, because successful oceanic trade could generate profits that justified the enormous risks and expenses of long-distance sea travel. Merchants invested heavily in navigation technology, training programs, and chart development because accurate navigation could mean the difference between profitable voyages and complete financial disaster when ships and cargo were lost at sea. The spice trade, in particular, created demand for navigation expertise that could guide ships across the Indian Ocean, around the African coast, and through the Mediterranean to European markets where exotic goods commanded enormous prices. Navigation errors in these trades didn't just mean financial losses, but could result in the deaths of entire crews and the loss of years of investment in ships, cargo, and preparation. Competition between maritime nations drove continuous innovation in navigation technology as countries sought competitive advantages in oceanic exploration and trade. Royal courts sponsored navigation research, funded exploration voyages, and rewarded navigators who developed new techniques or discovered new routes that could provide military or commercial advantages over rival nations. The secrecy surrounding advanced navigation techniques created international espionage networks as nations attempted to steal navigation secrets, recruit foreign navigators, and acquire charts and instruments that could provide strategic advantages. Navigation knowledge became a form of national security information that was protected with the same care given to military intelligence and diplomatic secrets. Medieval navigation training required years of apprenticeship that combined theoretical education with practical sea experience, under dangerous conditions where mistakes could be fatal. Apprentice navigators learned to use instruments, read charts, observe celestial bodies, and interpret natural signs through hands-on training that gradually increased their responsibilities as they demonstrated competency and reliability. Master navigators served as mentors who shared not just technical knowledge, but also the psychological skills necessary to make life-and-death decisions under pressure, while maintaining crew confidence during dangerous situations. They taught apprentices to balance multiple information sources, make rapid calculations under stress, and maintain accurate records that could guide future voyages and improve navigation techniques. The international nature of medieval trade created navigation challenges that required understanding of different measurement systems, chart conventions, and sailing traditions used by various maritime cultures. Navigators often needed to work with foreign charts, interpret unfamiliar symbols, and adapt their techniques to different ocean regions with unique characteristics and hazards. Cultural exchange between navigation traditions led to technological improvements as different societies shared techniques, instruments, and knowledge that enhanced navigation accuracy and safety. Mediterranean navigation methods influenced Northern European sailing traditions, while Arab navigation techniques contributed to European oceanic exploration and the eventual development of global trade networks. The decline of traditional medieval navigation occurred gradually as new technologies like improved compasses, mechanical clocks, and mathematical instruments provided more accurate and reliable navigation methods. However, many traditional techniques continue to be used as backup methods and remain relevant for modern navigators, who understand that electronic systems can fail while natural navigation signs are always available. The legacy of medieval navigation established foundations for modern oceanography, meteorology, and navigation science that continue to influence contemporary maritime practice. The systematic observation methods, data recording techniques, and safety protocols developed by medieval navigators evolved into modern navigation standards and training programs that maintain many traditional principles and practices. Most importantly, medieval navigators proved that human observation, intelligence, and determination could overcome seemingly impossible challenges when lives depended on accurate navigation across vast and dangerous oceans. They developed techniques that were so sophisticated and effective that many remained in use for centuries beyond the medieval period and continue to influence navigation practice today. So how did medieval sailors navigate across oceans without GPS? They created comprehensive navigation systems that combined celestial observation, natural sign reading, and sophisticated instruments to provide guidance that was often more reliable than the electronic systems we depend on today. They developed techniques that could guide ships across thousands of miles of open ocean with accuracy that would impress modern navigators who have access to satellite technology and computer-assisted navigation systems. They understood that successful navigation required not just technical knowledge, but also psychological resilience, practical experience, and the ability to make critical decisions under extreme pressure when the lives of entire crews depended on their skills and judgment. They proved that human intelligence and determination could master even the most challenging natural environments when the stakes were high enough to justify the enormous investments of time, resources, and expertise required to develop truly effective navigation systems. The next time you use GPS to find your way to a coffee shop, or complain about losing cell phone signal, remember the medieval navigator who guided his ship across the Atlantic using nothing but a wooden astrolabe, observations of bird flight patterns, and star knowledge that had been passed down through generations of sailors who understood that accurate navigation was the difference between returning home with valuable cargo and disappearing forever into the vast emptiness of the ocean. If you enjoy the hidden sides of medieval life, hit subscribe and give this video a like.